Let's watch the route combo at the top here. That and a pinpoint throw by Goff. Wow. Got to have more of that here in week 2. The Lions will see another familiar foe in week 2 as they face off against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. A rematch of the divisional round and the third time in 2 years these teams will face off. The Lions will try for a similar result and look to improve in several key areas in this matchup of 1-0 teams. Thank you for returning to the channel. I am your host, Johnny Gaz. I appreciate you coming back for another video. The Lions and Bucs face off on Sunday, September 5th at 1 p.m. on Fox. Let's do a full game preview. We'll look at the headlines, key matchups, X factors. We'll talk about the differences in the game, and I will give you my prediction and final score at the end of the video, so stick around. Let's go. Before we get into this rematch, make sure to hit the like button on the video if you dig the vibe here at Johnny Gaz Sports. If you hit the subscription button and notify bell, it's the best way to make sure you don't miss any future videos here on the channel. We now have a membership option available. I'll be doing all my play-by-play live game reactions and highlight reaction videos there. Hit the join button on any one of my videos and I'll show you how you can become a part of the family. Thank you guys so much for the recent interaction. Talking Lions football with you guys is a true passion of mine. It's been so much fun. Definitely make sure to comment down below. What do you expect for week 2 for Lions versus Bucs? Let's dive into week 2 of the NFL season. Let's start by looking at some of the headlines surrounding these teams as we enter week 2. The Lions continue their playoff rematches to start this 2024 NFL season. They just finished off Matthew Stafford and the LA Rams in a thrilling overtime victory there in week 1. They will now play the Tampa Bay Buccaneers here in week 2. They faced off with Tampa Bay in the regular season week 6 last year and came out with a 20-6 victory. Jameson Williams kind of put his stamp on the game with a long touchdown bomb in that game as well. And of course, last year in the playoffs, the divisional round, the Lions came out victorious for their second playoff win in a row, 31-23, heading to the NFC Championship game. Lions expect defensive tackle G.J. Reader to return to the lineup for week 2 and should bolster their pass rush and defensive line efforts here this week. The Tampa Bay Bucs look to continue the momentum coming off of a very convincing week 1 victory over the Washington Commanders. Baker Mayfield was excellent in that victory, throwing 4 touchdown passes. The Bucs, however, do have some injury concerns, especially on their defense in the secondary. The newest injury being safety Antoine Winfield. They're all-pro safety. That will certainly change some of the key matchups as we head into week 2. Let's dive into some of those matchups and see what will make the difference between Lions and Bucs. So jumping into those key matchups, I think the biggest one is the Lions' defensive secondary against the offensive weapons of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and I'm specifying the wide receivers. The Lions secondary was truly picked apart by Matthew Stafford and the LA Rams. Now, they were not awful. We know the Lions have the revamped secondary. Terrion Arnold in his first NFL start held up pretty well considering the conditions. Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp, the other weapons that the Rams have. But the short to intermediate passing game was really tough on the Lions here. Matt Stafford is a great quarterback. He knows that building very well. He knows the situation very well. And clearly the Rams had the right scheme planned for the week 1 matchup with the Lions. So it'll be interesting to see how Aaron Glenn and the secondary respond heading into this week 2 matchup. The Bucs, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Jalen McMillan, the rookie, all caught touchdown passes in their week 1 victory over the Washington Commanders. That secondary of the Lions will have their hands full with the athletes here for the Bucs. We know Mike Evans had a field day against the Lions in that divisional round, so I expect sort of a lot of the same in this particular matchup. The other key matchup here between Detroit and Tampa Bay, I think, is the Lions offense against the Bucs defense, which now has several injuries mounting up. We know that Amon-Ra St. Brown was really held in check in week 1, and I do not expect that to be the case in week 2. As a matter of fact, I think the Lions make every effort to get him as involved as possible early on in this game. I really doubt he gets held down twice in 2 weeks. The other thing is the Detroit running attack. It's hard to think about stopping this Detroit run game, knowing that they put their stamp on the week 1 game in overtime with what was, I think, 7 consecutive run plays or 7 out of 8 run plays there in the overtime session to score the touchdown and ultimately win the game. Can the Bucs defensive line, can the injuries in the secondary hold up or be enough to hold this Lions offense in check? The Antoine Winfield injury is a big one. He's going to be out several weeks now with this ankle or foot injury. So we'll certainly keep our ear to the ground on that one. And in the week 1 matchup for the Bucs against the Commanders, defensive lineman Kalijah Cansey as well as Logan Hall were all out. So we'll have to see what their status is as we get closer to the Sunday matchup here with the Bucs. In thinking about who the X factors will be in this game, I got to start with looking at the 2 quarterbacks. Jared Goff was a little bit shaky in his week 1 performance against the Rams. He was 18 of 28 for 217 yards, had the touchdown and the interception. Could have had another interception as well. 85% rating in that particular game. I think he's going to want to get off to a much better start here along with Amon-Ra St. Brown. I think those two will want to form a connection very early and often in this game. So be on the lookout for that. Baker Mayfield on the other side, he was excellent in week 1. 24 of 30, 289 yards, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions, over 150 quarterback rating. Just a fantastic way to start your season for Baker Mayfield. They really didn't get much on the ground, so they really had to rely on those wide receivers and the offensive weapons that they have, and Baker was really fantastic. I think both quarterbacks will have opportunities to make plays in this game. We know the revamped Lions secondary is still looking to establish themselves, and we know about now the injuries in the Bucs secondary. I think the question will be, how do the D-lines ultimately affect these quarterbacks? DJ Reader coming back for the Lions should be a huge interior presence now, which should ultimately affect all the other pieces on the defensive line. Does that start to affect Baker Mayfield and take him off his game here a little bit in week 2? Again, we talked a little bit about Amon-Ra St. Brown. He was absent week 1, but in the last 2 matchups against the Tampa Bay Bucs, he's had 20 receptions, 201 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So history would tell you that he should get rolling here against the Buccaneers. I think Mike Evans will be an X factor. Knowing we have the revamped secondary and thinking about what the Lions' true bugaboo was in week 1, I think you have to look out for Mike Evans. He beat them up last year in the divisional round with 8 receptions, 147 yards and a TD. So they're really going to have to try and lock him up along with the other weapons that the Bucs have at wide receiver. And I believe the Lions running backs will always be an X factor if healthy. I think last week David Montgomery took the hero role. He started off real hot and, of course, finished the game in overtime, just looking dominant along with the offensive line. Can anyone truly stop this Lions running game? Can anyone really hold them in check? I don't believe that to be the case, and I think that will be true here against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think they are susceptible to a rush attack like the Lions, and it really comes down to which one of the two sort of takes that A role here in this particular game. If I had to choose, I think still early on in the season, you lean on David Montgomery. I think you ride the momentum of his week 1 performance into week 2. So that will certainly be an X factor here in this game. What will the ultimate difference in this game be between the Lions and the Buccaneers? Well, in my opinion, it will be the Lions' passing game. I think it's easy to think, coming off of that overtime victory and what they did in that overtime session with the running game, that the Lions just continue that success on the ground. And although I think they could do that if they want, I really think they're going to go back to the fact that Amon-Ra St. Brown was a blank in week 1. I think Jared Goff wants to prove that he's back into form. I think it took 1 week to sort of get there, so I think they're going to reestablish their passing game here in week 2. We haven't even mentioned Sam Laporta. He was also held in check with 4 receptions for 45 yards in week 1, but really wasn't a big factor. I think you may see a lot more of him. So I think the Lions' pass game is really the overwhelming factor and the difference maker here in week 2. Can the Lions' D-line contain Baker Mayfield? I think in this case they will. Can the Lions defensive line force errors out of Baker Mayfield that will ultimately make the rest of the Lions defense look better? I think the addition of DJ Reader really plays a huge role in the ultimate success of what the Lions want to do up front. I think Hutchinson, over the course of week 1, started to get better and better. I think that momentum carries into week 2, along with now DJ Reader, hopefully Aleem McNeil getting more and more into the mix. You saw Marcus Davenport flash a little bit, Levi Onwuzurike. So you have a lot of pieces up front that I think now, after a couple weeks, are really going to start to show themselves, and I think that will be another difference here in this game. As of this recording, the line stands at Lions -6.5. I've seen it as high as -7, with the current over-under set at 49, so I'll keep you posted as we get closer to the game if those lines change. Ultimately, I think the Lions come out victorious again in Week 2. I believe they have a lot to work on and things to build off of from the Week 1 victory against the Rams. I really believe they played their C-plus game both offensively and defensively in that matchup. And I think there's a lot to build on. They have another home game here at Ford Field, so that is always in the Lions' favor. I think they have the momentum coming off the divisional round. They've beaten the Bucs twice last season. So again, all of that seems to lean in the Lions' favor. And I think what we've talked about as far as the X factors, the difference makers, Jared Goff, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Sam Laporta, I think those three guys offensively lead the charge. And then you expect the secondary of the Lions to continue to improve. Again, we talked about the injuries in the Bucs secondary, and I think that will play a part in the difference in this game. Ultimately, I think the Lions offense does a lot better here in Week 2. I see a final score of Lions 38, Bucs 24, moving the Lions to 2-0 in the season, and the Bucs would then go to 1-1. With any game preview, I got to know what you guys think. Did I hit on everything here for this Week 2 matchup? What are you looking forward to for Lions versus Bucs, rematch of the divisional round? Hit me up down in the comments with what you think the final score will be. If you dig the vibe here at Johnny Gas Sports, please hit that like button for me. It's the best free way to help out the channel. The subscription button and notify bell, a good way to make sure you don't miss any future videos. I do have a membership option available. If you hit the join button on any one of my videos, I'll walk you through all the options you have to become a part of the family. I'll be doing live play-by-play game reactions each and every Lions game day, so definitely come take a look at that. I'll have game highlight reaction videos as well available to members, but of course all the fun free content that you've come to love here. Thank you guys so much for your time and effort, all the comments, the interacting. It's been great. But more than anything else, make sure to take care of yourself and your mental health. I want to make sure you guys come back and see me on future videos. Thank you so much. Go Lions.